one of the most critical factors when people are deciding where they want to live is the public culture of a place and how accessible it is. Walkability, access to public transit, and whether or not people rush around or actually take their time to enjoy their coffee are all factors that people are increasingly considering again when moving to cities. There is one particular street in South Florida that puts all of these considerations at the forefront, and the city's investment of time and money over decades has proven to be a hit with locals and visitors alike. Let me show you around Las Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale and tell you a little about what sets it apart from other South Florida main streets that have failed to capture the same success. To understand Las Olas Boulevard as it exists today, you have to understand how Fort Lauderdale developed as a city. Unlike Miami, which exploded outward and upward very quickly, Fort Lauderdale developed more slowly and deliberately, intimately tied to its network of waterways, boating culture, and a quieter, more residential identity. Las Olas Boulevard itself dates back to the early 20th century, originally envisioned as a grand east-west thoroughfare connecting downtown Fort Lauderdale to the beach, much like Hollywood Boulevard to the south. The name Las Olas, meaning the waves, was a deliberate choice to symbolize the bringing together of the city's urban core and the Atlantic. For decades, the street was a mix of small shops, offices, banks, and modest restaurants. It was cozy, respectable, and distinctly South Floridian. It never did fall into the kind of abandonment or industrial decay you saw in other cities. But for a long time, it didn't command much national or international attention, at least compared to Miami. It was simply there, taking the slow and steady approach in order to serve the needs of a growing but relatively understated city. By the late 20th century, though, life in Fort Lauderdale began picking up pace. Tourism increased, downtown development picked up, and the city slowly began deliberately repositioning itself as a more affordable alternative to Miami. Thanks to the early planning, Las Olas was always positioned to play a central role in the shift. It just needed the momentum. If you watched our recent video on the design district, then you are familiar with how its development has been kind of emblematic of the overall trajectory of development in Miami. A bold vision grounded in meeting luxury demand, funded by large injections of capital and generally directed by individuals and companies with well-known names. Las Olas is similar in that. Its development is also emblematic of Fort Lauderdale. Only rather than developing in one big push and following some grand vision, its transformation came through incremental investment, gradual zoning changes, and a collective reimagining of what their downtown could be. The goal was never to turn Las Olas into a luxury enclave or a branded destination, but rather to elevate it into a true main street, one that blended dining, retail, art, offices, and residential life into a cohesive experience. Over time, all the buildings were renovated, new developments were introduced thoughtfully, and the street began attracting higher quality restaurants, galleries, and boutiques. What really adds to the charm is that Las Olas never abandoned its past. You can still see traces of earlier Fort Lauderdale in the scale of the buildings, the mature tree canopy, and the way the street unfolds gradually rather than dramatically. The evolution won't cover up the past, but incorporate it and make it relevant for a new generation of residents and visitors. So, what is Las Olas Boulevard like today? Simply put, it's the heartbeat of Fort Lauderdale. Stretching from downtown all the way east toward the beach, Las Olas is lined with restaurants, cafés, galleries, offices, and luxury residences. And yet it doesn't feel overwhelming in the same way that parts of Miami can. You'll find high-end dining alongside casual lunch spots, art galleries next to long-standing local businesses, and residents walking dogs alongside tourists discovering the area for the first time. Personally, I consider myself a city girl, and I enjoy Las Olas most for its walkability and atmosphere. It's one of those places where you can chat at a cafe, wander into a gallery, sit down for a long lunch, and still feel like you are part of the city rather than removed from it. The new river just south of the boulevard adds a whole other aspect when you factor in riverfront dining and the constant movement of boats. There's also a cultural component here that often gets overlooked. Events, artworks, and festivals regularly activate the street, reinforcing the idea that that isn't just a commercial corridor, it's a social one. And while Fort Lauderdale doesn't brand itself as aggressively as Miami, Las Olas has quietly become one of the most recognizable streets in South Florida. So why does Las Olas Boulevard matter, beyond being a nice place to spend an afternoon? From an urban perspective, it's a wonderful local case study in how cities can grow to meet visitors' demand without sacrificing long-standing local identity. Las Olas shows that density, mixed-use development, and economic growth don't have to come at the expense of character or personal pride. And I think understanding the details of how that worked out should be an area of study for all South Florida real estate professionals. The street works because it feels and it is sustainably scaled, easily navigable, and integrated into the surrounding neighborhoods. Economically, it's also a signal of rising tide. Rising commercial rents, new residential developments, and sustained demand all point to Fort Lauderdale's increasing prominence, not as a rival to Miami, but as a complementary and perhaps more reasonable alternative for the average visitor. The idea is that it appeals to people who want access to urban amenities without the intensity that often comes with larger global cities. And standing here, I can tell you it works. When it comes to real estate, Las Olas benefits enormously from its location. I'd go so far as to say that this is one of the most conveniently planned cities in the region currently. You are in downtown Fort Lauderdale with immediate access to the river, the beach, major roadways, and bright line service. For people who want connectivity without sacrificing lifestyle, this is a very compelling option. Residential options range from luxury condominiums with the river or city views to boutique buildings that feel more residential in scale. Living here means much of what you might want or need in a day is already just outside your door. The lifestyle here is refined but not restrictive. There is a refreshing absence of the exceedingly curated luxury you'd find further down the coast. Instead, Las Olas offers something more balanced. Upscale, yes, but still grounded and cozy. That balance does come at a cost. Property value along and near Las Olas have continued to rise and demand remains strong. But for many buyers and investors, the appeal lies in stability. Las Olas isn't chasing trends. It's reinforcing a long-term identity. So, to sum it up, Las Olas Boulevard didn't emerge from abandonment or radical reinvention. It evolved steadily, intentionally, and in step with Fort Lauderdale's broader growth. Today, It stands as the city's cultural and commercial backbone, offering a lifestyle that blends sophistication with accessibility. For those considering living, investing, or simply spending time in Fort Lauderdale, Las Olas is essential to understand. It reflects where a city has been, where it is now, and where it's likely headed. Not through spectacle, but through consistency and quality. And like the city itself, it's still evolving, just at a pace that feels distinctly Fort Lauderdale.